Okay, we are continuing reading the Bible. This is the New Testament, and this is actually the best book ever written on earth throughout the history of the earth. God created the earth, shown to us in the Old Testament. Some parts of the Old Testament are very good, other parts of it are pretty bad. Not the best because it was written by Moses, some random person. And this was actually written by God and God's Son, Jesus, recorded by the disciples. And this is God's actual words, as shown to us when Jesus came to the earth to write this. So as long as you actually understand this, and you can understand a lot of it by just what we have read so far in Matthew, the first book. This is Matthew. Up to like that page. The Bibles have different pages. It's really the chapter and the verse. 1, 2, 3. Verse 1, verse 2, verse 3. Chapter 20. And it's Matthew. Each book within the Bible is called a book. It starts with Matthew. We're up to chapter 20. And when you follow this, you won't hurt others. Excuse me. When you actually follow this and live this, you will not hurt others. And there are demons and bad people who demons have kind of an influence on. And they try to hurt others. And they'll try to take you down too. Because they want to take those demons want to take as many people as they can to hell. They're fallen angels. And the devil is the worst fallen angel. He created all that's bad. And they try to take you down too with their typical tricks and leading people into temptation and wrong things, wrongful things, awful things. And that's what they do. And no matter how crazy you go, when you're a kind person who has a good upbringing, and you do not hurt others, no matter how much they hurt your body, no matter how difficult they make it for you, be like Jesus. They can hurt your body, but they cannot corrupt your soul. They cannot corrupt your soul. You can make it through starvation, lack of sleep, all sorts of things when you have God and Jesus. When you have God and Jesus and you understand the Bible, you actually understand every verse. Every verse. Here's a verse. Every sentence, every verse. This is one verse. This is verse 1, verse 2, verse 3 of Matthew chapter 20. When you understand every verse of this Bible, what it really actually means, and you have faith and you believe in it. Fuck. What are you doing? Some cat came up here somehow. What are you doing? See, I didn't do anything mean to the cat, but I'm in the dark and it, like I could hear their mean, whatever they were doing. Like the other cat was a real mean jerk to me last night, and I didn't do anything to hurt it. I didn't do anything to hurt it. I cursed. That's a little bit of a sin, but it's not that bad. It describes a sex act or something. So I apologize. I'm going to ask Jesus to please forgive me for saying that while I have a Bible open. Sometimes I do that and I don't ask forgiveness, but I'm asking for Jesus to forgive me in a video like this to have cursed. I'm in the total dark and it made some crazy noise. Here, something about tonight, it's like there's something evil out there and I don't know what it is. There's something actually evil. Never happened in this neighborhood. Even the cat was out there in the dark, and I just let the cat in, and somebody or something, I don't know what it is, but it's not good. And usually this neighborhood is really good. It's the best, most kind, godly, Jesus-like neighborhood that I have ever been to in my entire life. And that's what I believe about this house. And I believe way more than that in God and Jesus. When I believe in anything, it's really believing in God and Jesus and following God and Jesus. So despite what those cats are trying to scare me with in the dark behind my back while I'm facing the light right here and everything else is dark, because I know it's the cats now and it's not some demon when I was kind of afraid and thought, like, something, I had a bad feeling before. That's why I opened this Bible. That is why I opened this Bible right now. It's like, you cannot hurt anyone. You cannot do any wrong when you really follow this Bible. This shows you how to be. And you have patience. You don't worry about it when it's working people up. Just stop what you're doing. Let it go and don't worry about it at all. It's probably not going to hurt you. And it's not going to hurt your soul at all. And be in touch with your soul and be kind, godly, Jesus-like, as shown in this book. And we're gonna start reading it, and it'll explain it. If you haven't read the other parts of it, we're continuing. Okay. Matthew chapter 20. For the kingdom of the heavens is like a man who is a householder, who went out early in the morning to hire workmen for his vineyard. That means the kingdom of the heavens is like a regular man. This is a parable, apparently, or maybe it's not a parable that Jesus was telling people in here, but it's what they mean by this is what God means by this, and what the book means is the kingdom of the heavens is like a man who works and follows God, and he goes out early in the morning to work for God and do God's work in his vineyard, and he hires workmen to do God's work, and that's how he does God's work. A householder means a believer in Jesus. That is what, a householder is what they mean. What I believe this means, a believer in Jesus. So the kingdom of heavens is like a man who's a believer in Jesus, who went out early in the morning to hire workmen for him to do God's work, because he does God's work. We'll see what God's work is if you don't know what it is already. And I really explain it to you here. It's about kindness to others. It's about being kind to others. It's about being kind to others and forgiving them when they're mean to you. And not letting them annoy you or anger you. Don't let them anger you. When you think they're mean to you and they trespass against you, you have to forgive them, not worry about it, and don't be mean back. And when you get good at doing that, you can withstand a lot. You can take a lot of hits, as they say, and you don't ever have to fight back. You just let it go and don't worry about it. Be kind in return as best as you can. Try to be not mean to anyone. You can still keep being nice. They're probably not going to hurt you, especially in the first world. They can't really hurt your physical body, or they're breaking the law. So they're probably not going to have much of an effect on you. So don't worry about it. Just don't buy into their meanness. Don't listen to it. It makes no sense. They're probably not going to hurt you. If they do hurt you, don't worry about it. Let it go. It's just your physical body. The whole purpose is to be kind to others. And then our soul goes to heaven for all eternity. And that's what we have to learn to get to heaven, is how to actually be kind to others, even when it's not even when it's difficult. When it's difficult, we keep being kind to others, and that's the purpose of everything. That's the purpose of being a human being, and that's what's shown to us in the Bible, is how to do it. And the more we read about it, the more we understand. And I just told you a lot about it. Is being kind to others and forgiving them when they're mean to you, and not hurting them back. That's what Jesus came down to show us, and to suffer and die for our sins, so we'll sin anyway, so our sins will be forgiven, because we sin anyway. So he came down to suffer and die for our sins, so they'll be forgiven. Our sins will be forgiven when we get into heaven, unless we're really bad and we make habit out of sin that's really bad, or we work in unrighteousness all our lives, as described in these previous books of Matthew of the Bible. When people work in unrighteousness, that means they're mean. They work in meanness at what they do, in their thoughts and in their intent. A lot of people get into doing that, and it's bad. I started doing it a little bit. It was pretty bad. So I don't do it at all anymore. I never work in unrighteousness. It's bad. And people who do that most of their whole lives for selfish reasons, for a lot of money and stuff, are really bad. And there are consequences in eternity in hell. So let's learn some more about it. Not hell. We don't believe in hell. We don't believe. When you believe in God and Jesus. So there is a hell. We understand there is a hell. But we believe in heaven. We believe in God, who created everything as we know it, and we believe in his son, Jesus. So the kingdom of heavens is like a man who went out early in the morning to do God's work and hire workmen. Having agreed with the workmen for a denarius a day, that's like $1 or something, or however much they paid him back then, he sent them into his vineyard. So he agreed to pay them for doing his God's work, because he was the one in charge and he was working too. And he agreed to pay them for doing God's work. He went out about the 3rd hour and saw others standing idle in the marketplace. They weren't doing God's work at all. They were just standing around, not being kind and helping. They weren't being kind to others. They're just doing whatever they felt like, that, they were standing or something like that. Whatever this standing idle in the marketplace means. He saw them standing idle there. And to those he said, "You also go into the vineyard, and whatever is right I will give you." He saw them standing in there in the marketplace. Let's see what the marketplace is. This word indicates that whoever does not work in the kingdom of the heavens is standing idle in the world. Marketplace denotes the world. He saw others standing idle in the world. You also go to the vineyard. He said, "You also go into the workplace or the vineyard, and whatever is right I will give you." And they went. And again he went out about the 6th and 9th hour and did likewise. About the 11th hour he went out and found others standing, and said to them, "Why have you been standing here all the day idle?" They said to him, "Because no one has hired us." He said to them, "You also go into the vineyard." Because he would pay them. He said he'll pay them. And when evening fell, the master of the vineyard said to his steward, and when evening fell, the master of the vineyard, the man who'd been paying them to do God's work and doing God's work himself by paying them and having them and probably doing it himself for sure. And when evening fell, the master of the vineyard said to his steward, "Call the workmen and pay them their wages, beginning from the last ones to the first." And when those hired about the 11th hour came, and they received each a denarius. That was what he paid them, 1 denarius a day. And when the first ones came, they supposed that they would receive more, because he started paying them. He added people as the day went, and some worked all day long, some worked only some of the day. So when the first ones came, they supposed they would receive more. And they themselves also received each a denarius. They only got 1 denarius like everyone did. And when they received it, they murmured against the householder, saying, "These last ones worked only 1 hour. And you have made them equal to us who bore the burden of the day and the scorching heat." But he answered one of them and said, "Friend, I am doing nothing unrighteous to you. Did you not agree with me for a denarius a day?" And he's not saying it me, he's not being mean about it. They just agreed from the beginning to get a denarius for their work. "Take what is yours and go. I want to give this last one even as I have given to you." I don't know what even means. Even is not good. Even means getting even with someone. That means being mean back to them. That's horrible. It says in this book, "Forgive others when they trespass against you, and then God will forgive you your trespasses." Forgive others when they trespass against you, then God will forgive you for trespassing against others. So I don't like that word right there. I'm going to take it out for us because I can describe it better. Take what is yours and go. I want to get, because when you have faith and you believe in God and Jesus, you're following God's word and what he really means, what he intends with all this. Take what is yours and go. I want to give to this last one the same as I have given to you. That's what they mean by this. Not even, like getting even with someone. That's awful. I don't like ever saying that. That is the wrong way. That's what they're doing down in hell, hurting one another to no end. Trying to hurt them for hurting them back, and it never ends. And they're all hurt and killed. Like, they keep hurting each other more and more. They kind of kill each other in hell, but they can't die because their souls are there, and it's just worse and worse. And the demons hurt them worse than the humans are maybe hurting them each other. And I think the humans just suffer down there and don't hurt others. I'm not sure, but I know that the demons are really hurting them to no end. And so you don't ever do that. But that's why you forgive people when they're mean to you. And that's how that bad stuff goes away. They stop being mean to you, and you stop arguing back and forth, and then it goes away. And finally they're like, "Oh, okay," and they stop being mean to you. He said, "Take what is yours and go. I want to give this last one the same as I have given to you. Is it not lawful for me to do what I wish with what is mine?" And it's not good to wish. It is not good to wish. You don't wish for something. You can ask Jesus for something, but for lack of a better word, in this particular Bible's interpretation, this is some version of the Bible. It says LSM on it, but it's a good one. It's a really good one. It was done in innocence using the word wish, but those occult people try to wish for things and make it into reality, and that's the devil trying to empower people with nonsense beliefs that don't mean anything, that he pretends means something, and he gives them power on earth to have more stuff and more earthly things and get to feel good and make their wishes come true and stuff like that. And then when they keep being mean to others to get those things, then he takes them down to hell and he can torture and hurt them and all the mean stuff that he does to try to keep, like, well, I don't know what, it actually kills him to be so mean. And then he'll burn in the lake of fire for all eternity one day for trying to be mean against God and use meanness to hurt others. So you don't want to wish for anything. Typically, you don't make wishes. You can ask Jesus for things when you really need help and can't go on anymore, or if it's some people can ask for things from Jesus if they think it's something that they really want. But if it's something that you're not supposed to get, then you should know in your conscience if it's right or wrong to ask for it. Some things you're supposed to go through and not get, and if you have a feeling it's not the right thing, you have to have the best faith that you can. You have to have faith in God and Jesus and know when it's right and wrong. And this book shows you everything about it, everything about what's right and wrong. This is called The Law, capital THELAW, capital LAW, capital THE, capital LAW. The law, more than any laws on earth, more than any rules and regulations of whatever the heck that means, more than anything, this is the law. If everyone followed this, say like everyone followed this, we'd have peace. We'd have, well, we're getting to peace. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe we're not getting world peace because the tribulation is going to come with war and stuff. Excuse me. But there'd be, no one would break the law if they followed this in the United States. Because the United States is a pretty godly, good place. But people keep sinning, they keep sinning. So he said, take what's yours and go. I want to give this last one the same as I was giving to you. And he said, is it not lawful for me to do what I want with what is mine? Or is it your eye? Or is your eye evil because I am good? He said, I don't know. I don't know what he meant by that. He meant something different than I say when I mess up and accuse someone of being evil. That was a mistake. I accused someone of being evil. I'm shaking my foot. That's why the camera was shaking like this, like that. Okay. Nope. Yeah. No. And dealing with the Lord, in 1912, Peter's concept was altogether commercial according to the principle of work, not grace. Dealing with the Lord in 1912. That was earlier, that was the previous chapter. This is Matthew 20. That was in chapter 19. And dealing with the Lord in 1912 and 1927. Whoops, I don't know why I said 12. 1927. Chapter 19, Matthew chapter 19, verse 27. Peter's concept was altogether commercial according to the principle of work, not grace. In his answer to Peter, and Jesus answered Peter, the Lord strongly indicated that his reward to his followers is not a commercial matter, but a matter according to his desire and grace. For the disciples to gain the kingdom of heavens, they needed to leave all. Where is it? They needed to leave all, like their money and stuff like that, and follow the Lord. For the disciples. Thank God it's not everyone. That was for the disciples. They need to leave all and follow the Lord. But what he will give to them as a reward is more than they deserve. It is not according to the principle of commerce, but according to the Lord's good pleasure. This is an incentive to his followers. I'm trying to itch myself. Okay, so he said here, is it not lawful for me to do what I want with what is mine, or what I wish with what is mine? Or is your eye evil because I am good? thus shall the last be first and the first last. Wow. He was doing it as a lesson to show what Jesus I believe, unless I don't think this is talking about Jesus. I think it's talking about a householder, a believer in Jesus. The kingdom of man is a householder. Unless the kingdom of heavens is the man, it would mean he's God or Jesus or heaven. Heaven is different. That's wrong. He's not God. And Jesus, the kingdom of the heavens is like man, a man. It's like a man. The kingdom of heaven is like a man. So the lesson in this was the last be first and the first last. And that's a lesson to show that, well, that's just a way to show us that the people on earth who have big riches and the most expensive things, and they look really good looking, and they have a $400,000 like, yo man, it's a 2014 Bugatti. I ain't playing. And and that's terrible. And they have like a they have like, you know, a 10 or 20 million dollar house. They have $400 million or whatever, and it's like, I'm a famous actor and I'm 52, and but I'm trying to look young. You got a 21-year-old girlfriend. I look young, and I star in all these movies, and like, I've got $400 million. If anyone tries to mess with me, I'll stop acting like a big demon devil. And and anyway, and it's good to suffer like Jesus sometimes and go through what some of the stuff he did and keep being kind to others. But some of those people who have all that money are kind. Some of those people who have all that money are kind. I don't know. And but some of them get into heaven. There might be, you know, more when they start getting into the hundreds of millions. I don't know how they would, because it says in this book it's easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle. It's easier for a huge camel to get through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to get into the kingdom of heaven. It's really hard for a rich man to get into the kingdom of heaven. So who would aspire to be a rich man? You know,
anyone who follows the Bible and the New Testament, who would want to be a rich man? Awful, awful. You know how hard that is to get into the kingdom of heaven? Who would ever aspire to be a rich man? How awful. How awful. What a bad sin. And typically those people go against Jesus and God and Jesus, unless there is some miracle that they have so much unbelievable faith and they're such a kind person and they follow the Bible. They're gonna have to pretty much follow the Bible and God and Jesus to have a chance, because I don't see how they would do it on faith alone. It would be almost impossible, because it just is almost unlikely, because here it says, thus the last will be first and the first will be last. And that means the ones who have all that money and stuff on earth and look really good, and the other stuff that's supposed to look good, they have a young wife, they have all the happiness and anything they could want and desire and feel good to their body, all the, any types of food they feel like eating, and they look good, they're attractive, they have everything. Those who are the first, it says, will be the last in the kingdom of heaven, or in the afterlife, where their soul goes into hell. Some of them, kind of. And it also means things in a different way. It says, but this says, thus the last will be first and the first will be last. The ones who are at the last of the line the whole time and look down on the ones who are in the back of the room in the classroom, made fun of the whole time, while the popular kids were always the most popular. In heaven, they will be the first. Those ones who are last will be first. And those who were first, the popular kids, the ones who are always making fun of the other ones, the ones who didn't have to even say it out loud because they meant it with all their intent and all their thoughts and all the meanness they could muster towards those kids, to keep them in silence the whole time and make them feel horrible about themselves. Well, they were so popular. Those first ones will be last. And that's what it means by this. But some of those popular kids, this is not literally what it means when I said that. There are other interpretations of what this means. Right here it says, the last are the latest working, the last are the latest workmen. It says the last are the latest workmen, and the first are the earliest ones. In working, the earliest come first, but in receiving the reward, the last become the first. It is in this way that the Lord makes the last first and the first last. Sounds like the Old Testament. I don't know what type of description that is. Mine was better than that. My description was a lot better, a lot closer to what Jesus and God really meant by this. But that kind of gives an explanation of it. But that's the guy who wrote this version of the Bible, who's good. He's a good person, but he's not like the disciples, not like the people who literally wrote the Bible, but the Bible is the words of Jesus and God. So that was kind of like this was a thing to learn. That's the beginning of Matthew chapter 20 up to verse 16. Thus the last will be first and the first will be last. On the way to Jerusalem, chapter 20 through 21. And as Jesus was going up to Jerusalem, he took the 12 disciples aside privately, and on the way he said to them, some of those people who have, I'm just going to talk, some of those people who have a lot of money can get into heaven. It's possible, but, unlikely. So, people have a lot of stuff on earth, and Jews back in the day of Jesus, there were Jews and Gentiles who were non-Jews, and they're talked about in this book too. In the New Testament, this is the New Testament, the Bible, and the Jews, they had rabbis and they talked about hell and heaven in the Old Testament, and the rabbis said that almost everyone was in hell, in Sheol. And I guess they had visions of it, or Jesus and God, or God showed them some of the, I guess Jesus and God showed them who was in hell, and it was most of everyone. And they did see some people in heaven, and they called it Olam Haba. In the Old Testament, Olam Haba, and most of the people in heaven back then were the ones who were last on earth, the ones with hardly any money, who did not look very good, attractive, and they had difficulty, but were kind anyway. They were righteous, and that's what's talked about with their faith with the Old Testament, in the Old Testament that Christianity believes into. And those who were last became first in heaven. They were in heaven. And those who were first on earth, who had all the stuff that they could ever imagine, were last in hell. They were in hell. And that's not always true in the New Testament, but generally speaking, that's what the rabbis noticed about who got into heaven, what they called Olam Haba, and that was of the Old Testament, and that's in the Old Testament, and that's the only reason why I'm mentioning it, and because it's a Christian book, and I'm talking about the Christian stuff, but this is the New Testament. This is way better because it was written by Jesus, and it shows how to be kind to others, and the way to actually get to heaven, which is actually how you're supposed to be on earth to others, which is how you're supposed to act on earth. And this book tells you how you're supposed to act. And that's the best thing about it. It's not always easy. It's difficult. Sometimes it's fun. Sometimes it's great, whatever. But it's been, anyway. The third unveiling is of the crucifixion and resurrection. And as Jesus was going up to Jerusalem, he took the 12 disciples aside privately, and on the way he said to them, "Behold, we are going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be delivered to the chief priests and scribes, and they will condemn him to death." They will condemn him to death and deliver him to the Gentiles to mock and to scourge and to crucify him. And on the third day, he will be raised. The throne of the kingdom and the cup of the cross. Then the mother of the sons of Zebedee came to him with her sons, worshiping Jesus and asking something of him. And he said to her, "What do you want?" She said to him, "Say that these two sons of mine will sit." And I'm not Jesus. I am not Jesus. I can't be. I sinned. I sinned a lot. So I know I'm not Jesus. I am not the second coming of Jesus. Anyone who claims they are could be the Antichrist. And that's talked about in this book too. Could be the Antichrist in the a little bit later. Unless they're Jesus. Unless they're really Jesus. unless they're really Jesus, then there's no chance of him being the Antichrist, and you know. But if he sins, you'll know the difference when whoever may see this, say like this video is still around when the second coming happens, whenever that is, when the second coming of Christ. First there'll be the Antichrist, who is like a bad guy and pretends that he's Jesus, but he's not at all. He destroys things and does bad stuff like they did in the Old Testament more, and they hurt others and stuff like that. So that's what he's that's what the Antichrist is going to do, and pretend that he's Jesus, but he's not. And then the tribulation comes and all the bad is destroyed, some good people get killed, and then Jesus will reign on earth for 1,000 years, and it's talked about in here a little later, and we'll read about it later. So I am not Jesus. I know that for sure because I sinned a lot. I am not Jesus. Then the mother and sons of Zebedee, then the mother of the sons of Zebedee came to him with her sons, worshiping and asking something of him. And he said to her, "What do you want?" She said to him, "Say that these two sons of mine will sit, one on your right and one on your left, in your kingdom." She wanted him to say that one of her sons will sit on his left and one of her sons will sit on his right in his kingdom in heaven. But Jesus answered and said to them, "You do not know what you're asking." Nope. Sounded like a awful false idol when I read that, like some stupid Hollywood movie that pretends that they're better than others, and they're mean and they blaspheme God. I didn't mean to pronounce that in that way, but some of those people might get into heaven. I don't know, but I didn't mean to sound like some actor who's got billions of dollars and may or may not get into heaven, but some of them really might. Some of them really might. I don't know. That's up for God. That's up to God to judge. It says in here, God. That's up to God to judge people, and I shouldn't try to judge people. So I'm trying my best to not judge others. But Jesus answered and said to them, "You do not know what you are asking. You are able to drink the cup. Are you able to drink the cup which I am about to drink?" They said to him, "We are able." He said to them, "My cup you shall indeed drink, but to sit on my right and my left, this is not mine to give." Let's keep reading. "But it is for those whom it has been prepared by my Father." And when the 10 heard this, they were indignant concerning the two brothers. It is for those for whom it has been prepared by my Father. He said that whoever sits on his right and left has been prepared by his Father, by God, so it wouldn't be anything bad unless somebody was mean about it. And that'd be the devil tricking someone into some nonsense that has nothing to do with God actually appointing who sits on the right side of Jesus and the left side of Jesus, which would not be anything earthly that much at all, unless heaven is brought down to earth, and it probably wouldn't be at all. It'd probably be just in heaven. So And when the 10 heard this, they were indignant concerning the two brothers. But Jesus called them to him and said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and the great exercise authority over them. But Jesus called to him and said, You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over on them, and the great exercise authority on them. It shall not be so among you, but whoever wants to become great among you shall be your servant." Oh, but Jesus called to him and said, to God, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it on them, and the great exercise authority on them." Let's read what the two, when the 10 heard this, they were indignant concerning the two brothers. Amen. Well, this is but Jesus called to him and said to God, said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and the great exercise authority over them." It shall not be so among you, but whoever wants to become great among you shall be your servant, and whoever wants to be first among you shall be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. The healing of the two blind men. I don't get that. Indignant. We'll get to this part in the next chapter when I understand what it means. And the next when I'm reading this chapter, when I start with this and the next chapter. But when I finish these verses, we'll get to this later, because something happened, some mean, I don't know, thing. I don't know what it is, but I'm supposed to stop reading because that's just life, and that's what being on earth is sometimes. So I got to read it later. I don't understand. We read up to verse 23. Okay, bye. Of chapter 20, Matthew chapter 20. Okay, bye. Click like in the video, subscribe. Bye. Okay, bye.